Our last speaker for this session is Pavel Cats. Pavel Cats is the Chief Technology Officer, Europeana. He oversees technology-related activities, including infrastructure planning, architecture design, software development, and innovation. Following Europeans' motto to transform lives with culture, Pavel is interested in potential of contemporary information technologies applied in cultural domain to change the society for better. Pavel holds a master's degree in computer science from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. His talk, Technology is Not Enough, reflecting about digital library technologies, will present the technological portfolio that Europeana has developed over the years, its evaluation. He will also share some thoughts about the future of this domain. Welcome, Pavel.
Hello, thank you. Good morning. Thanks for inviting me here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here to represent Europeana, European Digital Library, this international and intercontinental workshop on digital libraries technologies. A short visiting card about Europeana. We are a European digital platform for culture. We aggregate content from more than 3,000 institutions in Europe, 30 soon. And we store and manage more than 60 million records and deliver them to public in digital ways and forms. I've been with Europeana more than almost 5 years now, first as development manager, then as CTO, and been a part of a fascinating journey, Europeana's technological evolution. In this talk, I would like to share with you, to take you through this journey. I wouldn't like to focus on specific technological components because we have quite an extensive portfolio that would take too much time and do not do justice to some of them. But rather, I would like to share with you how our own thinking shaped, how it was shaped across different milestones of our development, how circumstances around us, our own thinking, our stakeholders' interest, technological development helped us to develop this portfolio. So I find that the most useful way to speak about our technological platform is about our stack, as we call it colloquially, is to talk about the flow of data in it. Because that's what we are. We are a data platform, first of all, and what happens to data on various stages is necessary for understanding the technologies we are using. Now, there are several stages for which the data flows in our platform. Not always these stages correspond to the same technological component. Sometimes a component spans several stages. Sometimes there are several components in one stage. For each stage, I'll provide a short technological kind of visiting card for technology diehards here. But rather, I would speak about how development of each shape was stage was shaped by different considerations. So first is data acquisition. To understand this phase, it's really important to understand Europeana's aggregation. We are mainly getting data from a wide network of aggregators. There are a number of like-minded initiatives in Europe, which are ran either by individual states, or such as German Digital Library, whose representative unfortunately didn't come here today, Stefan, or also alternatively pan-European thematic or domain aggregators, which provide data for specific thematic domains, such as architecture, archaeology, fashion. Now, our relationships with aggregators, both technical and organizational, are a very strong factor in our decision-making in this area. On one hand, we would like to empower aggregators to take advantage of their expertise in their respective areas in order to improve the quality of provided data. This is one of our key priorities, the quality of provided data. On the other hand, we are looking for efficiencies in the aggregator network, and we are trying to avoid duplication of efforts. So here I would like to talk about several things. First is our innovation, aggregation innovation. The need for innovation has been clear for us for quite some time. Our current ingestion system is already too slow. It was developed more than 6 years ago. It's not modular enough, and quite expensive in maintenance, and it's not open enough for external users. We started working on innovating our aggregation system in two ways. One was a more radical path where we explored what kind of technological approaches popular today in other content aggregation areas would also make sense for our community. So we look at such things as direct content submissions, content submission facilitated through an API, through a write API, direct upload through all sorts of web uploading tools, and also direct integration with content management systems employed by institutions. The second innovation path was more moderate, where we looked at the possibility to re-engineer the current tool and the current concept using borrowing some ideas from the more innovative area. So at the end of the process, we settled down on the second approach, and we are now in full swing of developing our new ingestion system, codenamed Metis. Remember this name. That will also contain some innovation elements from what we explored in the more radical innovation approach. And the system is expected to be deployed next year. Now, another important thing here is, of course, aggregation of media. And over the last years, it became clear that it is not enough to aggregate only metadata to provide meaningful experience to today's users. Users are hungry for visual experiences, for experiences with video. And of course, it's much more difficult. It's easy to realize that it's difficult to implement that, because everything which comes to media is much more difficult. Now we have started to look at this task and to do several things. First, we are a partner and a member in the executive committee of IIIF. It's a new, well, not so new already, a standard for image interoperability, which is quickly gaining ground in the heritage sector. We are also adding support into our ingestion system for aggregating digital resources exposed through IIIF endpoints. And we are developing a cloud service to allow our partners to expose their own digital resources through IIIF point where they do not have the ability to do it themselves. The second stage is data processing. We apply necessary data processing, a series of data processing flows to make the data normalized, or we call it clean, to make it fully compatible with our data model, Europeana data model, which is at the core of our storage, and it is our main data interoperability asset and model through which we promote our data interoperability efforts in the domain. We're also running semantic enrichment process in which we enrich incoming records using references to all sorts of contextual entities referenced from the record, such as people, places, concepts, and time periods. Now here, in the development of this stage, I would like to speak about three different things. First, the concept of cloud services. Now, cloud services is really just a name, and what do we mean by this name? We mean modular, scalable, independent components with a clear API that can be used both internally by our own developers, but also externally by people in our network who are interested in our technologies. So Metis, our new ingestion suite, will have a central coordinator which is delegating tasks to this series of cloud services for heritage content. Another important milestone which happened here a couple of years ago is what we call continuous publication of content. Now, before we introduced it, we were publishing new content every month. Technically speaking, our main database records were just substituted by a new version. Now, between these publication milestones, our ingestion team and their counterparts in the network were working very hard to have the desired content ready by the deadline. This was causing the entire office to work in strict monthly cycles, very stressed time before the publication, emails, phone, and then publication done, some relaxation, and again, pressure mounting up. Now, of course, it's a very unhealthy routine. By introducing continuous publication, when we not only could publish content to preview environment, but also to the final production environment, we could very much allow a continuous publishing routine, both to the team and to the data partners. In the beginning, our providers thought it's some kind of a miracle. They send data and very soon it gets available, but they quite quickly they got used to that. And another important development is addition of what we call internally CRF, or the official name is Media Services. This is a very powerful infrastructure for processing digital links to digital to images and to videos. We extract technical metadata from these images, and we allow searching, but technical metadata such as resolution or length of video, and we allow searching by these metadata on our portal and in our API. The third station is storage. We keep data in EDM data in the MongoDB central database. Originally, we started with data stored in Solr that was serving both search and main access to records, but very soon we realized that Solr is not enough, search index is not enough. We had difficulties with keeping relationships, with keeping the indexes, fields which are not indexed, and we felt a need to have a single source of truth in the system. So that's what we introduced MongoDB for. At some moment, we also introduced Neo4j, a graph database, to keep information about hierarchies between objects. Graph Neo4j being EDM is a graph model, so Neo4j is a very natural choice for representing hierarchies, especially from archival domain. Search strategy is very important for us. We're continuously looking how we can improve search experience. We published a dedicated study on our search strategy, where our main conclusion that it's very difficult to implement with one search index to satisfy very different use cases for search with one search index. So one idea we played around with was to have several search indexes, one for kind of a public search by public users, and one for people who are more interested in high precision data quality analysis and more research oriented search. Currently we still have one search core, but we're keeping this idea in mind. The API, all our data is exposed through API in RDF XML or a serialized EDM through JSON and JSON LD. And we have added two important new additions to the API recently. One is Entity API, which is the ability to access not only records themselves, but these contextual entities like people or places through the API, and Annotations API, which allows users to add another layer of information on top of the record, such as tags or image tags or connection between relationships between objects and so on. And we are regularly reaching to the developer community to get feedback on our API, and we were very proud to be awarded last year the API award of data in the category of data API by API World. No, this year. Finally, on the presentation layer, we moved from, first we had a portal, and I welcome you to visit it. We had a portal which was working in parallel with the API against the main storage, but it accumulated too much presentation logic at some moment, and so the first stage was to make our portal work against our own API, which was of course a very healthy decision for us as technology department, because then we could experience firsthand how is it to work with our API. It allowed us to improve it significantly. The next step was also to split the portal into a middleware for presentation, where much of the processing is going on in order to prepare content for presentation, and a very thin template-powered portal, Mustache, which of course gets data from the middleware. And another important thing here is to mention here is that the media service, or CRF, which I presented earlier, allowed us to display display digital resources in a much better way. So we display images, We display video from a series of standard providers like Vimeo. We display audio from platforms like SoundCloud. Now, before that, we had a lot of problems with digital resources published on the web not being compliant with the way they're declared in HTTP headers. So we could discover a audio file behind what is supposed to be an XML and the vice versa. We had a lot of checks in the portal in order, very ad hoc checks in order to improve this. Now, our CRF component actually helped us a lot with this, because now our own portal checks against our own database what is actually the resource behind a link. So we do not need to do all these checks. We know this upfront, and the portal became much more streamlined and standard. So looking back at these 5 years of development, I'd like to think what forces influenced our technology, and I think there were 3 of them. So one is, of course, innovation. So much has changed in the last years. We have adopted the platform as a service hosting paradigm, allowing us to deploy our stack in very little time. We keep improving our APIs. CRF is a very important innovation piece, which is used using an advanced parallel computing framework. And we have to continue looking at innovation. We have to continue at what technology can offer us to improve what we do. Second is legacy. While doing the innovation, we have to be sensitive to the domain we are working with, to its constraints and legacy. So, for example, when we badly want to introduce new ways to acquire content, such as API for uploads, we still need to bear in mind that majority of our content is available through IPMH interfaces, especially what is coming from aggregators. So and because we want to keep aggregators as the main staple of our providing network, we need to be working very efficiently and well with this kind of data sources. Or another example is digital resources. We cannot just say we will not display your resource because it is not described properly in your HTTP header. We will need to go an extra mile to analyze the resource and to present it correctly despite the deficiencies on the provider side. And finally, our own efficiency. How continuous publication is a good example where we upgraded the system to fundamentally improve the experience of our team. And one of the central goals of MET is efficiencies. We want to make the experience of our own ingestion team much more streamlined, much more easy. We want to open it to select aggregators so that they share with us our infrastructures. Resources are not endless, and we need to spend them wisely. Now, to complete, just a couple of words about technology. In the last years, technology has certainly done an incredible leap, especially in consumer services for organizations like ours. For technologists from 10 years ago, when many of digital library initiatives just started, today's age would look like a paradise with its amount of high quality, robust, and reusable components, cloud services, which are easily pluggable into stacks, paradigms for hosting, and so on. So we do not have any technological excuses now not to do things that we need to do. So to conclude, we followed technological path of Europeana in the last years. As you see, the path was shaped by many influences. We're a network organization with a complex governance structure, and our decisions are affected by many stakeholders in the network, by institutions, by aggregators, by technology partners, and of course our own funders. We are quite a big technological ship to steer, and we need to do it being both on alert for innovation, but also being sensitive for limitations in our sector and keeping up with the sector, doing it together with them. So our inspiration is to bring technological innovation to the sector. We are going to continue doing this in the 5 years, but looking at the technological development and abundance, I'm quite sure we will do it even better than in the last 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel. We will not be able to take any question. I'm sorry for that. You can present your queries to Pavel during the lunch hour. Pavel, please. We have a small memento for you.
Sure.